Okay, as we start chapter 12, we're talking about mixtures and properties of solutions. And it's very important that you remember some of your stuff from Chem 111, particularly things about intermolecular forces and polar versus nonpolar. This is the homework that's assigned for chapter 12. This is not collected. It is not graded. This is review questions and review problems. This is for you to go and practice, and hopefully after practicing you'll be able to sit down and quite easily do the material from the homework that's on Wiley Plus. So as we start, you'll see all the definitions listed here. In Chem 112, I do not ask definition kind of questions on the test, but you don't need to memorize things for the test, but you need to understand these definitions so that you will understand the questions. You might have a question that says, what is the mass of solute in 25 milliliters of a 2.7 molar solution of sodium chloride? So if you don't know what the solute is, you won't know how to answer that question. So you have to know what it means, but there's not going to be a question that says, what is a solute? So when we talk about solutions, we're talking about a homogeneous or uniform mixture of particles, and it can be atoms, ions, or molecules that are dissolved in some kind of a solvent. The solute is what's being dissolved, and the solvent is what's doing the dissolving. Now, when we talk about solutions, many people think about solutions being a solid solute and a liquid solvent. That's the kind we're most familiar with. But we can have gas-liquid solutions, we can have liquid-liquid solutions. And when you have liquid-liquid solutions, it's a little bit harder to define which is the solute and which is the solvent. We often think of the one we have more of is the solvent. However, it's hard to define more because in Chem 112, when we start talking about concentration, we're going to be looking at a lot of different concentration units, and one thing might be more in one concentration unit but not in another. So it gets to be a little bit of a sort of a gray area there. So, for example, if I were to mix, say I left here after an interesting day and I stopped at Burgers down the road. I went in and ordered a whiskey and soda because I never drink whiskey straight up, right? So I go in there and give them my money. Which is going to be the solute, the whiskey or the soda? What's there going to be less of? The whiskey, right? And there will be more soda. So in that case, it would be the solvent, would be the soda. Then, if that doesn't do the trick and I go home, pour the whiskey into the tumbler, sprinkle the soda on top, because I never drink whiskey straight up, right? Now, I just sprinkle a little on top. Now, which is the solute? The soda, because I put in a lot less. So the solvent and solute can change positions when you have a liquid-liquid solution. Okay, when you have a solid liquid solution, it's pretty well defined. The solid is the solute. The liquid is the solvent. We talk about things being miscible. If something is miscible, that means it mixes in all proportion. My whiskey and soda mixes in all proportion. Lots of whiskey, little bit of soda, or lots of soda, little bit of whiskey. They'll still mix completely. When things are immiscible, that means that they don't mix. So think of oil and water. A non-uniform mixture, Italian dressing, right? You get the fat grease layer on the top and then the water layer on the bottom. So that's immiscible. Now, when we start talking about solutions and we talk about concentrations of solutions, we can use this kind of as a relative term, saying, oh, that's concentrated or that's dilute. And if we say something is fairly concentrated, we're usually talking about 60% or more of the solute. And if it's dilute, we're usually talking about less than 1% we would consider dilute. Or when we talk about concentration, we can be talking about actual concentration units. Yes? Yes. You've been letting me talk all this time. The good news is I was videotaping it. The bad news is all this is going on the video, all my chatter.